Hello, it's a SIG Node CI group subgroup meeting. Welcome everybody. We don't have much attendance today, and it's a KubeCon week, so maybe that's the reason. Let's go into agenda. I will share my document right now. Can somebody say good morning so I know that we are actually live?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm not sure how to share my screen now. Yeah, got it. Hey, Victor.
Hey, sorry I was behind. The previous meeting ran over a little bit.
Yeah, and it's not a morning for you, and you're like 3 hours before us. So yeah, I put some items into agenda. Please add more items if you want to discuss something. So I want to start with some triage. So there are links to issues that we care about. I didn't do anything in a project things that we have because I don't know. Victor, how did you manage this project before? Is it all manual? Like you just put items there, or like how's it working?
Yeah. So here's what I did before. We were just we had a spreadsheet and we're tracking it, and I was getting a flood of emails, and I said, hey, we need to do a better job of tracking. And so that's when I created that board. And so the way that cards are added to the board is a manual process. And so I put up a, I think, yeah, to add cards, here's the little search that I did. SPR is open, label SIG Node, and the label area test. So if you click on, for example, the add cards, I would go through that and say, yes, these are relevant to us and our team. And there is, when I added a card, I would put it in a, one of the columns, in progress or review, based on where it was. And that's sort of how the board got initially populated. And so then once the card is on the board, the progression is sort of automated based on if it has a looks good to me, or if somebody has started a review, or it's approved, just based on the GitHub project board automation tools. But the process of adding cards there is manual. I don't know if there's an automated way to do that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, I looked at this set of issues that we have, and out of these 57 issues, like unfortunately there is a note code so didn't start because of 1.19 release. So we have like 17 that are ready to be merged, but they're not. So out of 57, there are plenty of issues that are interesting for us. So maybe we can just add all of them to dashboard and then pick up from the dashboard. Would it work? Is it how it's intended to be?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
So out of these 57 issues, should we just put all of them into first column?
Well, if you look at this, some of these may not be, and probably are not, specific to SIG Node. And so, like, for example, when you do that search, if that's what you just did, let me make my window a little bit bigger. There's a further refinement needed. Because, so for example, remove broken link to analytics. I mean, that's not SIG Node.
Okay.
So I don't think, there's still some more filtering, and maybe one option would be to, because see, this matches a filter, but this is clearly not, just looking at that, that's not SIG Node. It looks probably more like a end-to-end test kind of issue, just glancing at it. And like
everything is area test.
Yeah, remove. Yeah. So we don't want to. I don't think we want to move all of these that match that filter.
Okay.
So
yeah, but my question is, do we want like ones that match our group charter? Do we need to put all of them into first column and then assign person, or wait for somebody to pick up this item and only then put into first column?
Yeah. So what I would do is look at the card and sort of see what stage is it at, and then put it in the appropriate column.
Okay.
So
Even
let's
if
take an
nobody
example.
working on it, okay. All right.
Yeah, let's take an example.
Mm-hmm.
Let me pull up the board. I don't have it up. Sorry, I was running a little bit later.
Yeah,
Can you
I have
share
it
the
here.
link? Oh, there it is right there. I see it. Let me pull it up, and we'll go through a couple maybe. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. Just give me 1 second. I'll pull up that same filter. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's already there. So, for example, if we look at the first one, that one, read SSH username from env variable, that to me is
Mm-hmm.
not SIG Node. And there might be a way to further refine the filter, but if we want to take a look at one that is SIG Node, that's pretty clear. Let's see which one is.
This one?
I'm just scrolling down on mine to see if I see one that jumps out that looks like SIG Node, because I had did this right before I went on vacation, and I thought I had pretty much moved them all onto the board that matched SIG Node, so SIG Node specifically. Oh, here's one. Graduate the pod resources API to GA. And the bottom one, in-place pod vertical scaling feature. I think those two at the bottom. Actually, oh, there's more. So, for example, 92165. Which is probably on page 1. So this is a feature.
Wait, 92 what?
That was 92165. So this is actually an API change, and it's not really an end-to-end test. So this is maybe not a good example either.
Yeah, I got you. So you basically put all items that belong to our group to this dashboard, and then we can find an owner for that.
Yes, and typically, either for an issue to be found to start with, either a PR or an issue has to be opened. And so when you say, hey, do we want to assign an owner to it, I tend to think of that as it may be possible that the owner is the one that created the issue, or if they need some help, then we could perhaps get some of the volunteers to look and see if they're interested to help out.
Yeah, I think one problem right now is to clean up all the PRs and get enough eyes on PRs. So one thing we can do is to find owners for review PRs. Some reviews may take a while. So I was thinking if we can start getting some ownership like after this meeting, like we have clear like understanding who owns which item and have some status update from people, it will be useful and it will give some dynamic to the meeting.
Yeah, sure. So let me look at the agenda again. I apologize. I just came back late. I got back late last night, and I'm still
It's okay.
catching up with
So
stuff.
my suggestion, maybe we can like I like this in progress column, and maybe we can just go through in progress column, and if person who working on the item is in the chat or like in a meeting, we can discuss this item really quick and this will be our triage issue. And maybe some items will be moved to in progress, and that's how we will finish triage and then go to other discussions. Does it sound good?
I think that might be more efficient for this meeting, just to sort of go through what's already there and help if anything is blocking, or if there needs to be some discussion on that. I think that's a great idea. So for example, like, in the review or approved column, I think that one, yeah, well, let's just start going through the columns.
Okay.
Yep.
So Morgan started this nice PR about moving some SIG Node tests into blocking area, what that Deems recommended last time. So it's not assigned to anybody. Morgan started it. Do you want to find owner beside Morgan to review? I actually already looked at it, and it's quite, I can assign myself.
I think Morgan's on the call. Morgan, you want to talk to this and see?
Yeah, as he said, Dems, well, I don't know if he was the original guy, but he had made a very nice problem statement of, as you can see it on the right side of the screen there. If the person's not part of SIG Node, can I look at the test grid and go, is everything okay or not? And I just kind of, I went through and I tried to make a tab group, and that's the result. And I've got some comments of my own on it, on maybe how we go forward. But I really just wanted to create it to get some other people to look at it, because I can't merge any of this stuff. I need somebody with a reviewer or approver to be able to merge it. So.
Okay, so I'm catching up, and as I read this is really a quick way to be able to look at the test grid and say, hey, because we're sort of thinking that release informing and release blocking are probably some of the higher issues that may need attention quicker than others, right?
Right.
And so this is a way to go to test grid and say, hey, at a click, we can see those jobs at a glance without having to reverse engineer some code or have some kind of secret magic decoder ring to do that for us.
Yeah, without looking at SIG Node kubelet, how do you know which of these 50 different tabs is vital and which one's just like, it fails all the time anyway, so we don't care.
Yes, and from my input, I think it's a great idea because we had been sort of talking to this before, and so if we could do that with a test grid tab and say, yes, these are the ones that are priority, and the other ones would be, we could work on those later. So I think that's a great idea. So what do we need?
I put it in this agenda item, one of them. So I discussed this with Jorge as well. Jorge, are you on a call? And his suggestion was exactly like you said, Victor. Everything that is release blocking already, so it's already on release blocking dashboard, we can put on our blocking dashboard as well because it's guaranteed to be blocking. And I also looked at spreadsheets that you created before. So in spreadsheet, you have this column severity, or like, let me open it up. What is this? So this dashboard, and then one of the columns here is priority or severity, something like that. Priority. So you mark some of them as high. So is it based, like, what is this high based on? Like, do we need to mark all as it is high as a release blocking, or like node blocking?
Yeah, so a little history on the spreadsheet. So this thing was, when this effort first started off, this was a initial cut at looking at all the jobs and really for all of the volunteers to sort of understand where the jobs were, how to find them. And then for each volunteer, the intent was to go through and, populate all these. And so regarding priority, when I created the spreadsheet, I said, now, clearly some of these are more important than others. And as we have spent more time on it, this spreadsheet I haven't updated it myself in several weeks now. And so I think as a group and as a team, I think we have come to, a general consensus that release blocking merge blocking and release informing are probably the top priorities. And so here, the priorities should be, low, medium, and high should probably reflect that. And we maybe could change the priority to be, the high ones would be, those 3 categories. So I don't know if we want to continue updating the spreadsheet maybe, or maybe change the title of the column. But I think this is going back to being able to have the test grid. And if we have those tab groups, those 3, I guess, characteristics or whatever would be a high priority. So if we could go back to the spreadsheet and say, well, these are high priority because they are release blocking, merge blocking, or release informing. And so anything else would just by default be medium or low. And we could focus on the high priorities first, which are, I think, those 3. So yeah, that was before, this priority column was before we had sort of said,
Okay, so we can use this
characteristics would be.
information anyway. So
Yeah.
we can just like this high reflects into like probably being a release blocking.
Yeah, and it probably isn't. And I put that high there because I mean that was one of the. This is the topology manager. This was some of the end-to-end tests that myself and some others at Red Hat did, and for me personally, it was high priority. But when we look at SIG Node end-to-end test in general, I don't think this is in the release blocking, release informing, or merge blocking category. I'm almost positive not. So from that.
Yeah, but the idea is not to be release blocking necessarily. It's whether node itself healthy, like with the SIG node test a healthy or not. So if this is like critical enough, we can put it in a blocking queue, and this is a dashboard that we will be watching very closely. Is it in this category?
I'm sorry, I'm not quite following the question.
So the idea is not only like duplicate all the effort of release blocking tests. So like we don't only want release blocking tests into this dashboard. We also want to have tests that are that are critical for SIG node. So this is SIG node blocking dashboard. And if topology manager is critical enough to be in this SIG node blocking test group, we need to add it into dashboard, even though it may not be release blocking.
Okay, so if we back up for a minute, and can you pull up test grid?
Absolutely.
And I mean, this job is already there. And if you look, I think it's under. Yeah, there it is right there. So it's already there, kubelet. If you look to the bottom right, serial, GCE, end-to-end topology manager, and there's one for CPU manager to the left, a couple. So these jobs are already on test grid, and I think I'm missing something or misunderstanding your comment about.
So the PR that Morgan sent is to have exactly the same, like this categorization into kubelet didn't change. So what will happen, there will be another dashboard right here on the top. And when clicking on the dashboard, you'll get into, I mean, maybe the same test will be duplicated there, but this will be all the blocking tests. So just looking at summary of this SIG node blocking dashboard on this page, you will see, like, if you see something not green, meaning that it's clearly something needs to be fixed right away. Into this category of SIG node blocking, we want to put all the release blocking and pre-submits, but also we want to put everything that is critical for SIG node. So if topology manager is critical enough to put the SIG node blocking, then we definitely need to do that.
Yeah, I think we're constantly getting in this not argument, but there's mini conflict of do we want one that's just the exact same stuff as the release blocking test, or do we want to have our own extra dashboard? And so maybe we need two dashboards. We need one that just duplicates release blocking, but we also want our own of, well, we think these should be blocking or maybe release blocking or merge blocking eventually, but we think these are critical to our SIG node health as it is by itself, I think is the little mini conflict we're having here.
Okay, I got you. So does anyone have a link handy for the release blocking?
It's
Just
pretty
in general
straightforward,
for
right?
Kubernetes?
Yeah. Release
Okay.
blocking.
Okay, so it is there. All right.
Well, those are
Okay.
builds. Let's find some.
Okay.
Oh, that's all done.
Okay, so I think I'm catching up now. What this whole discussion is about, and thank you for being patient with me, is a new test grid specific for SIG Node that is something that at a glance we can look at and say, these are the tests that are important. They should always be green, whether or not they're flagged in SIG release blocking or not. We think they're important for SIG Node and they should always be green.
Yep. And James also suggested that we can do gradual approach. So we will make all the tests that currently green as a SIG node blocking, but then we will create another dashboard, SIG node work in progress, which we want to make a blocking, but they are not green right now. So we just put it into second dashboard.
Okay, I see. And this is, so Morgan, you've got a PR 18831 with your first cut at, yeah, okay.
And that what I made was literally just duplicate what was in the release blocking, I think, as clear as I could find it.
But they, the jobs are specific to kubelet, right? Or the,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
SIG node. Okay, so it probably is some filtered out then, I guess?
Yeah,
Some
so
jobs filtered.
how the test grid works is basically you make a tab and then you add existing jobs to it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can see, yeah, what he's got up there is you see right on the end, it's got, okay, so you can see it's in release master blocking, SIG node kubelet, which is another dashboard. And then I made a new dashboard, SIG node blocking. And so you sort of agglomerate jobs onto a tab group dashboard, whatever the thing's called, a dashboard. And you can do that in two ways. You can do that by you go to the actual job and you say this job is part of that dashboard.
Right.
Or, which I think we might need to do just so we're not touching everybody else's jobs all the time, is you go to the test grid dashboard config and you say, I didn't do it here this way, but if you were to expand the do the expand on the bottom of the file, you would see that, yeah, there you go. So you can see that this has test group, so you can sort of agglomerate the tests in this file. And we might want to focus on doing it that way, just so maybe it's centralized and we have access to this file, and so we don't have to get everybody else's permission to mess with their files, which I could see being an issue.
Yeah.
Overall.
I think that approach makes more sense. So we can just modify the test grid config instead of each one of the jobs and enumerate the jobs themselves in the config for test grid. And yeah, I think that is much cleaner and probably would be accepted better.
The reason I did it the way it is here is because that's how I found which jobs are release blocking, is I just, well, what's release blocking? And I just added it. So, it makes it obvious why we're doing it, but I'm touching files. So yeah, I can go either way on it. I don't really care. That's what we did.
We can start going this way, and then if you see that it doesn't scale and we cannot get approvals fast enough, we can switch to like a centralized place. What do you think?
Okay. Yeah, for me, I need to just, I guess, put some comments on the issue and the PR.
Yep. And you can see I put get some statistics. So it's like 42% of tests, like it's only 105 jobs we're running right now. And out of them, like 42% already passing. So we have a pretty big chunk of tests that we can potentially mark as blocking if we decide to do that. And it will be just a like rerouting. And then everything else it needs to be looked at. So it's like, but it's only 106 test jobs, so it's not that many. Okay, let's go to the test grid back. Not test grid, dashboard. So Node end-to-end remote runner is broken. Jorge, are you on a call? No, I can't see him.
No, I don't think he's here.
Yeah. Clean up Jenkins. Document workflow. Yeah, I don't have anything to say about either of these three items. So even though they are in progress, yeah, probably need to just ping Jorge on these two or the three, because he opened it, and ask if he wants some help on those. Okay, I suggest we go to the next item. I want to talk about image policies. We merged this thing from Roy about how to pick a image for your test, and there is a recommendation here in the end how to pick a image for the test. It basically split tests into 4 categories: release blocking, pre-submits, continuous integration with other technologies, and latest and greatest kind of like future-looking integration. I really like this division of test, and but currently how we structure our test cases right now, like we have one image file. I think we have 3 image files. One image file for most of the tests, and like couple image files for one for benchmarks and one for something else. So there are 2 pull requests that are trying to update our images for tests, but those pull requests are hard to like, let's say this one. I think it's from Morgan as well. Yeah, Morgan.
Yeah, these are old. I probably need to update them.
Yeah, so my issue is that pull request is not issue. Like, I think this pull request definitely needs to go in. Like, we need to update cost image just to be not on a very old one. But then we also may need to split this one image file into multiple files. And I was looking for suggestions how to do it better, and maybe somebody already thought about it. So let's see, like there is an image config YAML that is used in many jobs, including pre-submits and release blocking and feature tests. So if you want to follow the recommendation from Roy on which images to use when, we will probably need to have 3 separate files, like one image config pre-submits, one image config CI, and one image config forward-looking, this kind of things. And all of them will use different set of images. Like pre-submits probably need to have very stable, like exact version of course image. Feature work will need to have like LTS image family. So
why would we want to have different images based on the job type? For example, you said a different image for the pull request and a different one for the periodic CI job. That doesn't seem like I don't understand what the benefit would be there. I would think we would want to run the same image for each job type.
So the idea
Unless
here,
I'm missing something.
and this is exactly what I want to ask. Like, idea here is that we don't want to fail pre-submits ever, unless we explicitly want to migrate to the next image, and then we I'm sorry, I was muted. Uh, so the idea here is that we want pre-submits to be as stable as possible. So we want to lock a single image for pre-submits and only update it rarely when we have to update it. So this way we guarantee that pre-submits will not be flaky because of image. So we don't want to do image family for that. We just want to stable one image.
I see. Okay, so this is based on input from Roy, and he is on the cost team. Morgan, have you, let's see, have you given that any thought, or anyone else?
I've given this plenty of thought. I'm not sure I've ever coherently managed to tell anybody my thought. So I can agree that maybe some of the release blocking stuff, we should have like a specific image just so that it's not something we need to change all the time, and it's stable. But these images come out so often and they change so much, even once they're in an LTS version, that I'm not sure that there's specific stability either way. I don't. Because we've done this, we've upgraded LTS images, and we've gone from one to another, and it's broken a bunch of stuff. So the fact that we're using one for a while seems to be calcifying. Yeah, we're locked to that image, even though in theory they're not using that specific image anymore. They're using one that's 17 versions newer because they come out like once a week. So that was my goal of trying to use one of these image family things was, okay, well, if we just say, okay, we're going to use 81 LTS, we're always using 81 LTS, and if it breaks, yeah, we need to fix it. So
for what it's worth, I'm with Morgan here. I think my only comment would be, instead of using cost stable, we should just point it to cost 81 LTS.
Yeah.
It is rare that a new build of an LTS image would actually cause an issue. And if it does, I mean, I'm not exactly sure breaking out by type of job necessarily helps, unless Kubernetes itself certifies, for example, Kubernetes 118 with COS 81, or like a specific build, for example,
Right.
Which probably is not going to happen. And I think, so at least internally, even in GK, this is how we're testing new images, pinning to LTS version. I think the most unstable thing could be kernel refreshes, but even then it's generally not a cause for concern. Maybe there's edge cases, but I would rather we catch them in more tests, getting more coverage than fewer places.
I'm curious if any flakiness ever was introduced by image being LTS.
Are you saying, has there been? I mean, possibly sometimes in kernel patches, there might be a new kernel refresh that happens that changes, for example, eBPF behavior somehow. It might change how TCP memory handling happens. I am trying to think of in the last 3 months if that happened, and I can't think of anything that changed in the base image itself that caused an issue, at least on GKE. It's the second level things that we do, changing on our own kernel modules and stuff like that, that might cause issues, or that have historically. For what it's worth, COS also does some testing using Kubernetes, the open source Kubernetes. You know, they package their own kubelet and run whatever tests they run before releasing an image. So I think just pinning it to LTS in all places probably makes, at least in pre-submits, I would rather we test whatever the latest image is. But I do see the downside because now the tests are slightly less deterministic.
Right.
And it's not about deterministic. Like the problem is once we hit an issue with a newer image, then all pull requests are stuck into like not being able to merge. Because you need to, like, before you fix this issue, you're stuck with failed pull requests.
I think knowing how rare it is, though, I would err on the side of not having more PRs go in before the issue is fixed. But I understand, like, the test infra in the Kubernetes repo is very, very large, and it might prevent, it might be a very large freeze than we intend to, than we want to have. But I mean, if a pre-submit is failing because of an image, I would rather we stop it at the pre-submit stage than a week or 2 weeks later.
As long as we have a notification thing, like to make sure we can fix it real quick, because yeah, we don't want to keep blocking everyone. But I don't want to be managing these images. The computer should do that.
So if we lock it to a particular LTS, like how long would we expect that we can pin to that, and how regularly will we have to bump it?
Well,
There's
if you
no
lock it
LTS.
to-
Sorry.
If you lock
There's
it
no
to a
L-
family, there's no whatever it pulls the most recent version of the family, right? So you look at these columns at the bottom third of the screen. It's image name, which is a specific image project, which is cost cloud, and then image family. So if you pick COS 81 LTS, until COS 81 is end of life, which is like December of next year or November of next year, we don't have to touch it. We just say COS 81 LTS, the computer figures out which image to pull. It pulls the most recent one with all the security updates and whatever, and we don't care about it. But if we say COS 81-12871-119-0, somebody's got to go through, or we've got to figure out how to get the auto bumper to go through and bump it every once in a while. At which point, well, why didn't we just use the family and let it pull the new one anyway? So I don't, you know, if there's a way to automatically roll back when it fails and give us a notification, that'd be great. But I don't see that stuff built. So
Yeah, I think I don't think we should be thinking of images as a specific image. I think it should be whatever LTS or major release of an image is. And
that makes total sense. I guess what I was more asking about, like, the end of life thing. So it sounds like
that's
once
every 6 months there's a new LTS. I think around March, April, and August, September. So COS 85 will be stable, I believe, in the next 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And end of life is 15 months.
Okay, so basically, like, once a year we'll have to bump this, basically.
Twice a year, but yeah.
right. And they give us a notification too. It says, you know, end of life this date. So, you know, I set a reminder a month out, and it's like, okay, well, remember, I'm fine with that. That's low effort enough.
So another concern that I talked to Roy, and Roy said that there are two stable images that we test every job with. Whether do we actually need to have a test that is two stable images? Like, do we just need one?
I have no idea. This is what it was. I couldn't divine the inspiration from looking at the history of this file. It has changed so much over time. Originally, as you can see, the comments, like the deleted comments on the left side is, you know, okay, it looks like at some point we were trying to pick specific versions of Docker, but, you know, by doing that, by picking specific images, like you're doing one thing by doing a different thing. You're not really achieving your goal, because you're trying to, you know, you're choosing an image to choose well, you should install the specific version of Docker you want to test. So are we covering specific versions of Docker and specific versions of Containerd and runtimes and whatnot? Well, then we need to do that and not pick an image that happens to have it at this specific point in time. So.
Yeah, okay. Like, one reason for two stable images maybe is that one is marked as LTS and another marked as just a specific image. And this way we can always say whether it's only fail for LTS, so meaning that it's newer image caused that, or it's like general issue that may affect either. So we can go with this approach, or we can just save some money and like just only have one stable image for calls.
I'm fine with either way. I don't know. The differential diagnosis kind of thing is an interesting thought. I haven't thought of that before in this case. So.
And lastly, I wanted to ask, do you want to have this beta images test? So like we can run some, like maybe same test, maybe subset of test with the beta images. So meaning that we will test it with latest versions of kernel and tools, and it may give us some insights in the future. I don't think we need to do it for pre-submits for sure, but maybe we can run pre-submits as a separate job. Like maybe we can copy paste all the pre-submits and run them with the latest as a separate jobs in the separate dashboards. Has anybody thought about it, or like is it something that we want to do, or we just completely disregard this this one and just go with stable for now?
Yeah, I would say that you know, as I'm getting caught up and reading through all the comments and the doc that Rory put together, and you know, input from everybody, it looks like the latest LTS image would work for all of the jobs, which would be, for example, COS 81 LTS. And because if you stop and think, what's the purpose of why are we testing? Why are we running these images? Are we trying to test each and every version of the LTS or COS image? And I think the answer is no.
No.
We want to be able to say, hey, the LTS version works on all of the SIG Node end-to-end test. I think, Karen, if you can correct me, I mean, aren't these images being tested in some other test suite also probably as each image comes out, and they would perhaps catch these failures instead of relying on SIG Node end-to-end tested it, or no?
They are tested. So COS team does run some tests. Each COS image has a kubelet, and whatever kubelet version they have in that image is the one they validated with. I think if we want to test on basically tip, I would say COS dev might be better than COS beta. But even then, I think COS dev might be very unstable. So we should be definitely not opening bugs and notifying people on failures on COS dev.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like it provides much signal then. Like it'd be nice to know that it's going to break in the future, but if it's very noisy and we're looking at it to find problems that don't really exist, I don't see the benefit there necessarily.
Yeah, I think COS dev might be beneficial around the time of a new LTS release.
Yeah.
Because right now I think it's pointing to COS 85. So if we could run tests against COS dev right now, it might actually give us signal on which build to pick for a release.
Yeah, I think it's less about testing latest LTS. It's about how our SIG Node features will work with a future version of containerd, for instance, or like Docker update. I remember a couple issues, like one rollback of cherry pick into 118 because 118 used the previous version of containerd that didn't support some feature. I don't remember what it was, but it was like just recently it happened. And another one is when latest version of Docker didn't support some flag, and we tried to pass this flag anyway, and that's caused some issues. So this tip of technology kind of test may be very interesting, but I don't know like how we probably don't want to put it in our regular image file, so we don't want to run every single test with them, but we want to run all the tests with them maybe once in a while. So I don't know how to implement it and whether anybody thought about.
I think this is something we should put off for the future and write it down as a thing that maybe we want to consider. But I don't think we can make a decision right at this moment.
Okay, so Morgan, wouldn't it be possible for you to update pull requests to target LTS?
Yeah, I'll look at those existing PRs. Thank you for pointing them out.
And do you want to keep two or make it one? I would suggest we try to make decision now, and then and then it will be easier.
I'd have to look at them. I think they're probably different files or something, but I'll update the PRs.
Okay. Okay, I'll fix my spelling later. Karan,
Yeah, I just wanted to, I think I noticed in our internal testing this, but GKE has enabled shielded nodes by default for 118 and above clusters. Mostly it's fine, but in custom images, we don't support custom images with shielded nodes. So there will be a fix sometime in the future on server side to disable it, but for now, kubetest will fail on 118 and above if you use the GKE provider. So I just have a PR disabling shielded nodes on that. I didn't see any, I was trying to look on TestGrid if there were any 118 failures that looked similar, and I guess that's why I joined late, but I didn't find too many of them or any bugs reported, which makes sense because the tests don't run on GKE.
Karen, can you give us, for folks like me, what's the shielded node?
I have to look at the docs. Shielded nodes is basically a security feature where I guess they enable secure boot and other security things that don't allow you to, for example, load kernel modules once the VM is booted up. Let me paste a, oops. Let me paste a link. It's a GCE feature that GKE also uses. Actually, let's see. It's actually doing integrity checks for VMs. So you can enable it with secure boot, but it's basically making sure the VM that comes up is actually a GCE VM and not, something in between has not been, what is the word, faked.
Okay, yep, thank you. I just did a quick search and I see it now. Thank you.
so the implication for us is some test may want to do something that is not allowed any longer, and we just need to clean it up or watch for it?
Yeah, basically what will happen is there needs to be some sort of, there needs to be some stuff that happens onto a OS image for shielded nodes to work. And because we're using custom images, those base images don't have that stuff happen in them. So the nodes will just not come up, and it's not really easy to debug those because kubelet itself is not aware of anything related to the hypervisor or shielded nodes. So in this case, we just disable that. But this will only fail tests that run against GKE. I don't believe any tests in Prow right now run on GKE. I think they're all GCE.
Okay, thank you for update. Any other topics or any questions to Karan? If you have some time, like I wanted to ask this question. I was really surprised by this node. Yeah, so here somebody sent a pull request and suggested that he can run this test for this test name and get some results. So I was really surprised because I thought that the test command can only run test out of this pre-submit hooks, like those ones. But do you know if this is a thing? Like, can you actually run test on some test that defined somewhere in this repository, and it will just run this test on your behalf somehow? Is the thing?
It depends. If you have it depends on the job configuration, and yeah, it is possible to test. It is possible to have Prow run a test that is not a automatically run pull test. This should be automatically run, I would think, but because it's got pull on it, but maybe not.
But I think it depends on the job config. Always run true or false, and
Yeah.
report. I think it's like report on or off or something like that.
Yeah.
Determines whether it runs on each PR or not.
Right.
And so, yes, I agree with what Morgan said, because when I did one of the end-to-end tests for topology manager and CPU manager, this is the way, I have it not to always run. And we were waiting for it to make sure it was all stable because we didn't want to block jobs on it. And this is the way we were manually running it. So right inside of a PR, you can just test job name, and it'll trigger the test, and you can see the results there.
Yeah, I'm asking because I remember this discussion about personal accounts for to fix test infra. So I was thinking, if this is a case, if this is a way for us to go, like if you can send pull requests with a fix that you believe can fix something, then can run any test you want. Not even from pull configuration, but from any configuration. Is it something that is possible?
Well, my understanding is you would have to have an existing PR, and then from within, and it could be just a debug PR, to say, hey, I'm running some, just a PR to be able to debug my pull request job. And so this is a way to manually trigger it and run in that environment, so that you don't have to have your own private, Google Cloud to do that. But if you do have your own private cloud, you can run it, but there's no guarantee that if it passes on your private one, it's also going to run the same on, the GKE or GCE environment, at least based on what I've seen.
So do you know if you can allow this this kind of test command for any test, or it must be test from like pull validation suite?
I'd have to
Like,
check the job config. It's a job
Yeah,
config.
I'm not sure either.
okay, thank you. Yeah, so we out of topics we discussed images, and we have action items here. We discussed some triage process, and I will reach out to Jorge asking what happening with those two issues and whether he needs some help. And I will try to put more issues into first column, so we can start putting items from first column to in progress column. It will be helpful. And finally, for this, just have a heads up for the change. If you're running GKE tests, then it will affect you. Anything else? Anybody has any other topics? Okay. Going once, going twice. Happy week. Like, I hope this week will be energizing, and there are lots of fun happening on KubeCon. Stay tuned for like all these activities, and have a great week. Bye-bye.
Thank you. See ya.